Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. And today's episode is One Punch Man, Season 2, Episode 23, The Varieties of Pride. So the episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happened in the episode. So we pick back up where we left the last episode off with Garo mid-fight with the 8 heroes. And at the end of the last episode, he was getting beaten by them. However, this time he finds his second win. He has a flashback to being a child and being the only one who really was on the side of the monsters while everybody else was rooting for the heroes on TV. Then he's like, these heroes, they're just a stepping stone for a monster like him. He just has to get a little bit stronger step by step. And so he gets a second wind, starts to defeat them, uses their own weapons against them, learns their timing. We even have a flashback from one of the 8 heroes, Glasses, who flashes back to when he was weaker. Saitama stood in front of him, saved his life when all his comrades were laid down around him, and he said that he couldn't be a hero, and Saitama's like, what do you mean limit? What do you mean you can't be a hero? What do you mean you have a limit? Just keep fighting to get stronger and beat that limit. And that's when he decided he was going to become the hero that he is today. But then he's promptly defeated after having such a meaningful flashback and deciding to fight back rather than just run. Um, Anyways, he defeats all 8 heroes. The last one standing is like Death Gatling. And Death Gatling's very sore about the ranking system and how Garos keeps mentioning how if they'd brought an S class, they might have won. And this is when Garo finally tells him there's a child in the shack, and Gatling doesn't listen. So he stands between the shack and the child and the gun and manages to survive the attack, keep the part of the structure that the child is hiding in safe from the bullets, and then defeats Death Gun Gatling. However, then he, goes to the child and is like, I'm glad you're safe, thank goodness. And the child, ungrateful little brat that it is, decides he's going to be scared of Garo, who just saved his life, and goes running off into the woods screaming for help. Like, how many interactions have you had with this guy? He's never done anything mean to you. He's been very nice. He saved your life, and you're just going to run off into the woods. Anywho, once he's gone, then Genos arrives at the scene and begins to fight an injured Garo with his new upgrades. And Garo's hair turns orange as he gets once again another second win after. Then we get another flashback of Garo, where he arrived at Bang's dojo, and then, of course, at the end of the episode, Bang arrives with Bomb, as the Monster Association has started to try to recruit Garo a second time, and are trying to distract Genos so they can talk to him, but Genos, of course, defeats most of those monsters, but is asked to step aside by Bang and Bomb when they arrive, and Bomb takes over, killing the monsters, while Bang challenges Garo to a fight. Then we have a brief scene again with Saitama, who's still playing video games with King, still losing. Apparently it's 81-0 at this point. King won 81, Saitama won 0. But then the pager is going off, and they find out that Genos has responded to the 8 heroes' calls for help for that. But because Saitama knows that Genos sometimes ends up in pieces. He decides he's going to get going anyways. And that is where we end the episode. So now that we've been reminded about what happened, it's time to rank the episode. As always, we'll be ranking on our two lists. Our mostly objective ranking list, which uses set values to determine the score, and then the personal ranking list, which is opinion-based. So we'll start with our mostly objective rank values. First, we have our multi-episode supporting character development, which is the Garo flashbacks times 2. The first flashback, again, is to him talking to other children about a TV series, and he's the only one rooting for the monster, which the other kids think is weird. And then the second flashback is Garo arriving at Bang's dojo and promptly passing out. Sourface is there and basically asks Bang, should we throw out this child who is just rude to us upon his arrival? But Bang stays his hand, and obviously we know that he does become a disciple at Bang's dojo. We also get the new recruitment attempt by the Monster Association to recruit Garo, who has proven himself to be a very strong human monster, which Garo is still kind of not wanting the help of an association. He wants to become a super strong, independent monster. Then, of course, the second 2 points, so that's worth 2 points, and then the second 2 points is Glass's flashback to Saitama, inspiring him to be a better hero, to not give up on his limits by saving him. And then we have +2 for our multi-episode main character growth, and Garo, who has reached a new level in his monsterdom, has now gotten bright orange hair and 1 red eye. Because that's how you know you level up, right? So that brings us to 6. Then we have a +4 for our multi-season main character growth. And this, of course, is Genos' upgrades, and he's finally using his lost limbs to his advantage, because Garo, once again, rips off one of Genos' limbs, which happens every fight. But this time, his limb is able to be remote controlled, and he manages to tie Garo to a tree with it. So, big bonus for Genos. Worth 4 points. And that brings us to 10. However, there was some negative messaging or behavior. One, of course, is that Death Gattling's obsession with the rankings, S-class versus A-class, and on the one hand, it is understandable. I mean, we have heroes like Saitama, who's arguably probably the strongest person in this universe, able to defeat pretty much everything he's come across to date with one punch, and yet he is only considered a B-class. He hasn't even made it to A yet, but he's the strongest because the ranking systems are kind of arbitrary. Whereas Genos, who consistently loses pretty much every fight he's been in from the start, and that Saitama's had to basically come in at the last moment and defeat the monster before Genos is completely destroyed, is somehow an S-class. So we can very much see how the rankings can be a bit arbitrary, and it's not truly based on strength, but a variety of factors, including marketability to a certain extent as well. And so because of that, I understand Gatling's point, how he feels overlooked as an A rank, how, even monsters and bad guys maybe underestimate him, or they don't give them the type of credit that they deserve for all the hard work they're putting in because they're not an S class, even though they are strong enough to be in the next rank down and have done a great amount of good. So I can see his point of view, but he's a hero, and honestly, without the hero association, he would be going around doing good deeds, presumably, without any rankings, and it should be the good deeds themselves which he derives satisfaction from, not an arbitrary ranking. So I'm not really taking points for it per se, but I am pointing out that it is pretty negative messaging to not be grateful for what you have and to be so obsessed with something that is shallow and arbitrary instead of what's actually mattering, which is that you are a hero who wants to save people. Also, the fact that after Garo tells him there's a child in the shack behind him and asks him to stop and not shoot, he decides to shoot anyways, assuming that Garo's lying, even though he wasn't, which of course is also really messed up. And then, of course, yet more additionally, we have the child, Dario, who has had several good interactions with Garo, let him see his book, goes in to tell him to leave the shack. He agrees to leave the shack, asks to see his book. Like, he's not done anything that should make this child feel any negative way about him. He goes out to face the heroes. They fight. Garo stands between him and a Gatling gun that is shooting hundreds of bullets towards the shack that he is hiding in, saving his life, which he can see through the crack that he's been watching the whole fight with. And instead of being grateful and acknowledging that this man saved your life and has in no way, shape, or form ever done anything threatening towards you, he decides to be completely ungrateful and run off yelling power. What a brat. I mean, I never really liked the kid. He was kind of rude, but now I really don't like this kid. Absolutely terrible. Like, I mean, if anything, he should be scared of the heroes. The hero who, despite knowing that there was a child in the shack, was willing and ready to kill him and not even check had Garo not stood and taken the bullet rain between him and the shack. But no, he's scared of Garo, who's done nothing to him, been nothing but nice to him, and even risked his own life to save his mere seconds ago. Absolutely disgusting child. Do not like this child. Very negative behavior. If somebody saves your life, be grateful. I mean, you don't have to like enslave yourself to the person, but at least say thank you. Anyways, did not like that child, did not like that interaction. Very negative, and all of these things together, minus 2 points. That brings this episode to an 8 out of 10. And so our list so far has the human monster in first, the hunt begins, the metal bat, return of the hero, the martial arts tournament, the S-class heroes, the varieties of pride comes in seventh, the monster uprising in eighth, justice under siege, the troubles of the strongest, and then in 11th, the resistance of the strong. Now, I've already done my ranting about that horrible, horrible child, but that horrible, horrible child did kind of bring down the episode for me. The lack of gratitude towards someone who has saved your life and never done anything mean to you is astonishing and terrible. I do not like that kid. I really don't. However, the fights, of course, were very cool. Garo's hair turned orange. Personally, I preferred it silver, but it just shows his monstrification is starting, I assume. The physical changes that come with, I guess, all of his killing and whatnot. Showing that he's leveled up while injured by getting those second wins to truly fight for what he believes in, and that is monsterhood. I am slightly ashamed to say that I did start to see his point a bit in the flashbacks too. Like that first flashback when he was talking to the kids, and they're all like, why do you care about this monster? And he's like, well, the monster just wanted to stop sea pollution. And then he was ganged up on 3-1. If he'd just been a little bit stronger, he could have saved the ocean. And I was like, okay, maybe I see your point that, some monsters have a cause that isn't just wholesale slaughter. And, in that case, maybe it's not that bad. But at the same time, if you choose to go about things in a villainous way, you're going to be treated like a villain, and you can't really complain about it because you made your choices. But I do see his point that in some cases, some villains actually have a point and maybe shouldn't have been ganged up 3-1. That is a little rude. I mean, in Garo's case, it was 8-1, and I even said in the last episode that that was dishonorable, especially since he was an injured opponent. You're ganging up on him 8-1, and he still won anyways, but still, I could see his point a bit there. Then, of course, we had our fun fight. Genos arrives with his new upgrades, and I'm really excited for him because that cyborg loses limbs like it's nobody's business. As soon as the fight starts, someone's ripping something off. So I really appreciate that they finally put that to use and have this remote controlled arm that now can like tie the opponent who's grabbed it to something. In this case, Garo was tied to the tree, but then he managed to survive the incineration or the next attack by like breaking the tree underneath him so that it fell forward, and then he was able to like rip the arm off of himself, like all the wires that had come out of the palm. But I'm still very happy for Genos that he's using his biggest flaw to his advantage now. It was a long time coming. We're already almost through like 2 seasons, 23 episodes for him to figure out that, hey, maybe since I keep losing limbs, I should actually use that lost limb. So that was very exciting. I'm still a little bit sore that we've missed out on Saitama for so long. And then, of course, the cliffhanger is that Bang and Bomb, who have been wandering around trying to find Garo, finally have found him after like some time. And then, of course, there's still the like monster association going on that's now trying to recruit Garo for the second time. But again, this episode was mostly the appeal of the fight scene, which was really good, especially when Garo started using their own weapons against them for that team up of 8. I thought that was pretty spectacular. I like, once again, that we have a hero who's been inspired by Saitama to become a hero. It seems like Saitama's not necessarily the people's hero because none of them like him, but the hero's hero because we have Newman Rider, now we have Glasses, we've King, who have been saved by Saitama at some point, and that was their inspiration either to become a hero or, regrettably, the reason they were kind of forced into it in King's case. But ultimately, I did like the episode, and I gave it a 6 out of 10. I gave it a 6 because I still think it's kind of awful for them to gang up on Garo, who is injured. I think that ungrateful kid is just like ruined the whole thing for me because I hate that he reacted that way. Like, Garo didn't do anything to him, saved his life, and he's screaming at him and running away. Like, oh my God. I hope that child's parents do better in the future to raise a child to not be so ungrateful to somebody who literally saved their life and took a rain of bullets for them. Like, when someone does that for you, you say thank you at least before you run away. You don't just scream and run, in my opinion. I think that child was terrible, terrible, terrible. And so, yeah, 6 out of 10. Which brings the personal ranking to the S-Class heroes. In first, The Hunt Begins, The Human Monster, Return of the Hero, The Resistance of the Strong. This episode comes in 6th. The Varieties of Pride. Then we have The Monster Uprising, The Martial Arts Tournament, Justice Under Siege, The Troubles of the Strongest, and then The Metal Bat, currently in last place. So now we come to our series ranking so far. Starting on our mostly objective side, Season 1 ended with 88.33%, and Season 2 has so far earned 82 out of 120 points. On the personal side, Season 1 ended with a score of 76.67%, and Season 2 so far has a score of 70 out of 120. And with that, we've now rewatched and ranked One Punch Man, Season 2, Episode 23, The Varieties of Pride. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.